Well, Frog's Leap is experiencing ridiculous winds at anchor. Well, I'm getting winds solidly over 20 knots. And I'm only 300 feet or so from shore, but that's enough fetch for this much wind to create these wavelets with white caps on them. During the gusts, which could last upwards of a couple of minutes, easily 20 knots sustained. I've got a ROCNA 15 kilogram galvanized anchor and 5/16 chain. And I'm in 10 feet of water and I went 5 scope. So I've got 50 feet to the water's edge. That's minimum, right? And that's what I did. I did minimum. That was a mistake. And I knew there was wind supposed to be coming today. The predicted winds were 10 to 15 here and 15 to 20 in Frailes. I thought, hey, 15, I went with 5 scope. The other reason I went with 5 scope was because I wanted to get in tight. Well, then you got mooring balls to contend with. I have CPA with a mooring ball, and so far it's been 50 feet. I think it might be 40, but it's pretty close, you know, when you're swinging at anchor. There's the mooring ball. Well, one thing I have going in my favor, it doesn't look like I have drug on the GPS yet. Those are really strong winds. I should have had more scope out. So in my mind, I'm just preparing myself to do that. Like, what are the steps, how to execute them smoothly. The challenge of paying it out is you've got a snubber on there and you got to bring the chain in, unhook the snubber or bridle or what, you know, it can be as complicated as you make it. And then you can pay out more chain if you have it, which I do. And what I have to do is go up there, heave around with the windlass to the point where I can release the snubber. Once the snubber is released, I can pay out more chain. You're liable to continue to drag while you are in the process of releasing the snubber because the snubber connects to the chain usually beneath the waterline. So you have to heave around on the chain to the point where you can work with it on deck. For me, I think it's probably, I got to bring in maybe 30 feet of chain. But when you do that, the scope is getting shorter incrementally. And so the angle gets worse and you could drag more while you're doing it. Say, how long are you going to go with a shortened scope in order to put out more scope? You want to make that quick. So you want to think it through, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing in my head. I don't believe I'm dragging right now. Oh my God, 23.1. That's insanity. Well, I'll show you the really simple tool that I use to kind of keep an eye on my swing circle. It's not perfect, but it works for me. I use this Garmin 86 SCI. You know, when you turn it on. Now this isn't tracking, I've used what's called their recording feature, and it just draws a line wherever you go. You can kind of see when I went up here and I originally anchored and fell downwind, you can kind of see the arc that it draws. You have to imagine that outer boundary is like the perimeter of a very small sector of a circle. It almost looks like a straight line back and forth, but it's not. It's going around a circle because it's centered on the anchor itself. That's what I use, and that's what my continuous motion has been looking like. This plus and minus button right here zooms you in and out. I can zoom out. See, I can zoom out, but when I'm doing anchor, that says zoomed in as it gets. These are my friends on sailing vessel Sapphire, who I got to enjoy a nice meal with last night at the Bahia de los Muertos Beach Club. Very nice. Man, this is really starting to freak me out. We're starting to get wind waves. And that's what's going to move you. That's what's going to really pull you out of the sand. Let me show you if I can get them. See if I can get them recorded. I mean, you're starting to get white caps. This is crazy. That's white caps at 23 knots wind and 200 feet of fetch. Maybe 200 feet from shore. Insanity. I hope 5 scopes enough. I just don't know how normal this is. Like, it's really ripping wind. The whole Baja is covered with dust. I don't know if this is normal. Weather changes did come up in my dinner conversation last night. I haven't kept up on any news at all. Let me see if I can catch some of this dust stuff. The dust is really readily apparent when you look at the mountains that are further away. I expect these winds will keep up until sunset. Right now, it's 1500. Sunset today is 1700, on or about. So I got 2 more hours of these winds or greater. This should subside at or just after sunset. At least it did at Frailes. So, you know, that's what I expect. I need my ground tackle to hold, I think, until 5 o'clock tonight, maybe an hour longer. So I need 3 more hours. It's nerve-wracking. Woo! Well, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I got sunset behind the mountains, and the wind is dying down. I'm thankful for that. Well, that whole wind thing all day was just very stressful, so I'm just glad it's kind of winding down. Cheers. Hot cocoa, so good. Well, it's Friday at Bahia de los Muertos. It's my last day here. Looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Saturday. We got a 2-day weather window for a nice sail up to the La Paz area. Specifically, I'm going to go to Bahia Falsa and then on to La Paz proper. And going to check it out. I've been there before, but it was 30 years ago, and I was bit by a brown recluse spider in a hotel. And the Coast Guard had to fly me back to Portland, Oregon to get proper antibiotics. Yeah, I was talk about an adventure. I think the whole Coast Guard experience was an adventure. If I were back in the States, I'd probably think these folks camping on the beach were homeless, but they're all in camper vans, and I've come to realize that the spirit of adventure manifests itself in all kinds of different ways. Man, I just love being out here. As I get older, it's like a awakening. Like you realize, hey, your time is limited here. So use it while you got it. Because you don't know how long you're going to have it. Yeah.